Hello and welcome to this week's Selling Made Simple live stream. My name is Will Barron. I'm the founder over at salesman.org. This is episode 11 of the live streams. That's exciting. We're over that hump of 10 episodes. Every time I try and create new content or even like a new way of prospecting or whatever it is, I'll always give it either 10 attempts or 10 days to have a crack at it, because I have all these great, incredible, amazing ideas, and then they just disappear if you don't put the effort in and you don't kind of stick with things more than that 10 times, 50 times, 100 times. So yeah, we're over that 10 hump. And what date is it? Just to timestamp things for you, it's the 13th of May. It's 5 p.m. UK time, and I'm looking forward to having a chat with you all. I'm pretty chilled today. As you can see, chilled outfit means I'm going to be chilled on these questions. So feel free to ask any of your sales, business, or just general life questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. We can pull it over to the whiteboard of truth and justice in a second if there's anything that I can visually help you guys with. And with that, let's jump right into it. Nadia asks, I've been offered an SDR position with no OTE. It's just a flat salary. Should I go for it? Nadia, feel free to follow up in the live chat box below or to the side, wherever it is, on YouTube or LinkedIn, or even on Twitch on this video, and I can follow up. If you follow up with what the job is and the industry is, I'll probably be able to give you a little bit more information. But an SDR role with no commission is a little bit weird. Now, clearly, as an SDR, you might not be commissioned on the deal getting done at the end, but you should be incentivized some way to get on the calls and do these emails and whatever outreach you're doing, because it's a friggin' tough, like, loveless job. You're going to go in, or virtually go into your kitchen or wherever it is, if we're all working remotely now. You're going to spend hours on the phone, researching, emailing, contacting people, and if you're only getting a base salary back from it, I would somewhat question that. Now, if the base salary is 300 grand a year and it's your first job, then tell me to just shut up. If it's not that, though, I would be slightly conscious that maybe I would want to be looking at even if it's not a commissioned role, some kind of incentive for doing an SDR role, because it's tough friggin' work. Watch my language there. Okay. Joey asks, have you ever sent a meeting invite without confirming it with them, with the prospect? No. People have done it to me, and it's a little bit weird, right? Because it's presumptuous. You're assuming that I'm going to just okay it out of laziness on my end to rather go back and forth. And there's no need to do it. Set up Calendly. There's no affiliation. They never sponsor the show or any of our content, but that's what I use for booking all of our appointments for myself and the team over at salesman.org. It's like $10 a month. It's nothing, right? And if you're unfamiliar, it just looks at your calendar and you can set time blocks in which people can book meetings. And then the prospect clicks a link. They can see what time is in your calendar that's available. And then they click on a link and book it in right there and then. Most executives, most people that have any budget in this day and age that we're living in, they're going to have a Calendly or an alternative themselves. So you could also ask for their calendar link and book in that way. But I would be unless you're willing to just burn the whole marketplace. Like if you're an SDR, Nadia, if you're in Nadia's role, in Nadia's shoes, and you've got to get 2 more meetings booked by the end of the month to make a crap ton of commissions, maybe you can bend the rules slightly, but you're just going to annoy people. And then if you just try to book a time in my diary, I'm never going to allow you to book time in it again. You're just dead to me. It's never going to happen moving forward. So I'll be very careful about sending an invite without confirming it with the prospect, with the buyer. It just looks weird and it's awkward. Okay. Okay. Ben asks, favorite children's TV show? So children's TV show, I guess it goes a wide range here. When I was really young, I used to like watching, and we did this recently, me and me missus watched a YouTube compilation of like 80s and 90s children's TV show intros, and it still holds up, right? I remember just sitting there as a child watching The Raccoons. I'm assuming this isn't just a British thing. I'm assuming it's elsewhere, all over the world as well. Sickest intro, right? This like synth bass, proper 80s, like legitimate actual pop song as an intro, as opposed to cheesy, crappy intro. So the raccoons if I was really young. I used to love Captain Bucky O'Hare. Weird concept, right? Why are all kids' TV shows super weird, LSD, heavily dosed out, drugged ideas like the Teletubbies? The Teletubbies could only have been invented by someone on drugs. Am I wrong here? So Captain Bucky O'Hare, he is a space fighting rabbit, green rabbit. He's got a mate who is a duck with, I think, either 4 or 6 arms. And they go around. I can't remember whether they were crime fighting or whatever they were doing. Another great intro, Sharky and George. That was an actual cartoon. And then I used to like the Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles as well. And then that transferred over to, we had a Sega Mega Drive games console in the US. I think it's called the Sega Genesis. And I spent so many hours on the Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles computer game. Me and my brothers just play it just endlessly on loop. Okay. Okay. What else do we have? Jasmine Devil. I'm assuming this is someone on YouTube asking this question. That is definitely a porn star name, if I ever did hear one. Jasmine Devil. When is I've just took the piss out of you, and you're asking a question that is probably quite a useful question because you might be a customer of mine or soon to be a customer of mine. Jasmine Devil asks, now I've just took the piss out of you, when is the new product launching? I'm on the waiting list and still waiting. So over at salesman.org, and we're launching a new product. It's the old product evolved into a new product. I talked about it on last week's show. I'll give you a bit of a behind the scenes as to what's going on there. It's all to do with frameworks, simplifying selling, just taking all the nonsense out of selling and making it systematic and step by step. The answer to when it's launching is I would love to launch it at the end of this month. What's your name? Jasmine. Jasmine, go to salesman.org, and all over the place there's big links, big buttons to jump onto our webinar. There's a webinar on the 26th. Now, I don't think we're going to be able to launch it in time on the 26th. That was the original plan. But if you jump on that webinar, we're probably going to do some kind of like pre-launch discount, like half price offer or something like that. Just to ruin the end of the webinar. There'll be an hour of training, some Q&A. I'll have a chat with you all. Anyone who wants to ask me any questions, from the perspective of sales specifically, it will be a training webinar as opposed to this, where I'm happy to answer pretty much anything you want to ask me. And at the end, we'll throw some kind of discount out there to pre-sell the new training. But as I said, I'd like it to be the end of the month. It's probably going to be mid next month now, just because there's so much new content and basically everything's changed. It's gone from full of what's the beginning fire Pokemon? It's gone from a Charmander into Charizard. We've skipped the bullshit one in the middle. That's where we're out of it. So we're a little bit behind, but that's cool because it'll be worth it when it comes out. What else do we have? I'm going to pronounce your name wrong. I apologize already. May J says, hello, Will. Hello to you, sir. Rajesh says, hi. May again, I'm totally butchering your name. I apologize, mate. How do you handle clients or prospects who call you too often? Great question. To the point where it's hard to work on anything else but handle those unnecessary calls. So we can differentiate slightly here. Let's go to the whiteboard of truth and sales justice if we can. So you've got a prospect, let's put pros, and they're pestering you. There's two routes that we could go down here. They could be pestering you because they've got a ton of cash and they want to give it to you. And then you've got to then suss out, well, is it worth the hassle for the revenue? The alternative is they've either bought from you in the past, in which case, essentially, down this route, they bought from you in the past, they don't have budget, they're just a pain in the ass, but you've got no financial upside of working with them. So don't forget about company culture, and you're here to promote a product and look after a company here. When you're at the point of a buyer pestering you so much that it's difficult to work on other parts of your job, you've got to be more selfish. Because the company, the system that you're representing has failed at this point. If they are not going to do a big deal with you, if they're not going to put money in your pocket with commissions, at that point, to be very blunt, you've got to sack them as a customer. You've got to hand them. So what have we got here? So if this, we'll just say at this point, there's no money, you can sack them. You can hand them off to customer service. And this is usually the best approach because you're being somewhat politically correct within your organization, right? Because that's what customer service should be doing. They should be protecting you from buyers who are just being a pain in the ass. I want to say sack them as a customer. We're going to have an adult-to-adult conversation with them and say, hey, look, this is the service we provide. This is the gray area in between the service that we provide and the service that you want. And we're acting in this gray area at the moment. Would you like me to do X, Y, Z, which I can offer? Or would you like to not work with us anymore? We end the contracts early, whatever it is, because your need is different to what we can supply. And when you sit down with a customer, 9 times out of 10, and you have an adult conversation like that, you're not negotiating here. This is what we do. This is what you think that we can offer, like unlimited phone support from the salesperson. Clearly not something that we offer. Would you like to move forward with this? And what we're doing here is resetting their expectations. So they're your options. You can either, if they're putting cash in your pocket, money in your pocket, then you can, I'll write it very blunt, suck it up. All you got to decide is, it's a business decision. You got to make an entrepreneurial decision here, right? Is the hassle worth the payoff? And it might not be. You don't have to close every customer. You don't have to, if someone's qualified but they're a pain in the ass, you don't have to work with them. Now, you're coming from a position of, hopefully, your pipeline is full, you're hitting quota, everything's going well, then you can make these decisions. If you're struggling, then it gets a bit more difficult. But yeah, I would want to have a conversation with the buyer. I'd want to suss out, are they putting money in my pocket, or are they taking time and energy away from me that could be spent elsewhere? If that's the case, I'd want to see if I can have a sit-down conversation with them where we're going to potentially sack them. If not, then bash them off to customer service. Otherwise, you've got to suck it up if you want that cash flow coming in your pocket. Or if it's not worth it, then again, essentially sack them. Sack them before you do the deal. Hopefully that is useful. That was slightly long-winded there. So Jal says, how to not take things personally. So taking things personally typically comes from an inability. I'll try and make this visual. This might not work. I'll try and make it visual. So here we have Sam, the salesperson. He's put on a bit of weight. Around his belly for some reason. Right. Taking things personally typically comes because people don't have a thick skin. Another way to describe thick skin, this barrier that we have where people fire objections at us, they call us idiots, they slam down the phone and it pings away. Another way we can describe that is self-esteem. Now, there's tons of ways to build self-esteem, but that's essentially what we want to build here. It's not about taking things personally. It's about someone throwing something in your direction, you going, hey, is this useful? Do I want to take this information and leverage it? If you come on this live stream now as Sajal and say, hey, Will, you got my name wrong. You look like a scruff in your hoodie. I would probably buy your product. I'd probably take you up on some of your services, which is what we're here to promote, right? At the end of the day, we're creating content to lead people back to a product or service because we've got to put food on the table. You turn around and say, hey, it's the wrong look. I would spend 20, 30 grand with you. I'm a sales leader, 20, 30 grand a year with you. You've got it all wrong. Then that is information that I want to take in. I want to take that information and I want to use it. And I'm going to show up in probably not a tie, but a shirt and maybe a blazer jacket on next week's show. Now, if I choose not to take that information in, then I want to ping it back out. That's what self-esteem does. When someone calls me an idiot, there was someone on YouTube just throwing a ton of, not necessarily hate, that's a bit hard, a bit strong. But and that I think that's strong because I've got a strong self-esteem, so I don't take things personally. How can I'm butchering this question slightly. Maybe I'm overcomplicating it. Self-esteem, when I feel good about myself, it's difficult for other people to make me feel bad, right? I think I'm doing a pretty good job. I think I'm doing a pretty good job marketing our product, serving our industry. Hundreds of thousands of people consume our content every single month, and it's going up and up. So something must be going right. So from a business perspective, I don't take things personally because I've got a strong self-esteem that we're doing the right thing at the right place, at the right time, the right people. And so if someone says I'm an idiot, I go, they're probably an idiot. They're lashing out because there's something wrong in their life because a normal, functioning human being doesn't say nasty stuff on the internet, on the phone, in person. So that's level one of this. That's the first layer. The other thing is, So that's your boundary around here. Your self-esteem at work stops you from getting beat up on by haters because you know that you're a good person, right? But crucially, and people forget about this, there's a gap here between Sam at work and Sam at home. Now, it looks like the gap is that he's fat on one side and he's fat and skinny on the other. But Sam over here, they're not the same person. I go to my workplace, I do my job, and then I leave it at the door. And when I get home, I'm not annoyed that someone called me an idiot on the internet because it's nothing to do. It's a different personality. It's split. So when people say you want to fake it till you make it and things like this in business, sales, entrepreneurship, whatever it is, you're faking it on this side of the screen. You want to be as true and authentic and as real as you can in your personal life. Otherwise, you're going to get confused, weirded out. You can just have this weird, ambiguous existence. It's fine in the marketplace to not necessarily push the truth, but to talk about what your product is great at. And if the buyer brings up the negative aspects of your product or service or whatever, to discuss them, to defeat the objections and to move forward. But in your personal life, you want to just be straight. You want to just constantly be taking personal accountability for everything. And then when someone says something stupid or someone tries to pick on you or whatever it is, my last sales job, this idiot tried to pick on me and manipulate me a little bit. And it got him frustrated because he was a bit of a bully, right? And he'd bullied other people on the team and other people had told me to look out for him. He tried to bully me more because it just didn't affect me. I just didn't care. I'd go to the national sales meetings. I'd go to the local regional sales meetings. They'd be a dickhead. And then I'd come back and then that was it. Because I had strong self-esteem and I just didn't care. Because when I left that room, I was back to being Will Barron, music producer, whatever I was doing at the time. And my hobby is doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And so if you're taking things personally, two things. Increase your levels of self-esteem. Know that you're a good person, that you're worthy of being there in the marketplace, and then have this split between work and home, because you're not the same person. It's not the same thing, and the bigger that split can be, or the more obvious it can be in your mind, the less likely you're going to take things personally. That was not a very good answer. I've got no data on this, no evidence, but that's how I set things up. That's how I frame things in my mind. Okay. What else do we have? I'm going to have a drink. For anyone out of the UK, you've probably no idea what this mug is. If anyone in the UK, you've probably got about 10 of them sat around your house from when builders come and visit or any work people. This is the mug that you give to them. You don't give them your best mugs. Okay. Tiffany asks, how do I decline a job offer after I've already accepted it but not started? A better one came in today. Well, Tiffany, congratulations. If you are post-pandemic, being able to just pick and choose which sales jobs you're in, I'm assuming it's a sales job. Congratulations, you're obviously killing it. I would just ring up HR. So I'd be more careful. If this is an organization that at some point you might want to go back to, they will now haven't offered you a job and you accepted it. They'll have a record of you on their system. And if you just tell them to F off, never reply to their emails and don't show up for work on the day you're supposed to, there's going to be a black mark against your name. So if you ever want to work there in the future, then they're just never going to hire you. You're just going to be blacklisted, right? So I'd ring up HR, I'd ring up your hiring manager, and one, I hope you've negotiated against the original job offer. As in you say, hey, I've been offered this other job. I'm really sorry. This is probably what I'm looking at moving towards. And then leave it open-ended. Leave a bit of air and silence on the phone call and see if they want to negotiate, because maybe you'll get a crap ton of money out of it, hopefully. If you haven't done that, you should definitely do that. Otherwise, that's the conversation where it's going to go. Just be polite. Ring up HR, ring up the hiring manager and just say, hey, look, I've had this other offer. Give them a bit of feedback if you can of it's more money, less traveling, better products, I don't know, whatever it is. And they might be a bit miffed at first, but they'll get over it, because unfortunately, until you start your job, you're basically just a number. As simple as that. I can't be any more blunt about it. I've been quite blunt today, aren't I? So yeah, everything will be fine. Just make sure you ring up and you're polite about it. Deirdre asks, is a career in sales possible for someone with a degree in physics? I'm assuming you don't know my background here, but yeah, I've got a degree in chemistry. So I worked in medical device sales. My first job was in chemical sales, which I realized was not a good fit for me. I got sacked from that job. I've told that story on the Salesman podcast many times, which you can check out over at salesman.org if you want to check out all the podcast content over there. I got into chemical sales on the back of my chemical degree. Then I got into medical device sales on the back that I had an analytical mind from my chemistry degree. I had a science background from my chemistry degree. So yeah, if you want to get into any products that require engineering, whether that be software engineering or physical engineering, you're selling, I don't know, building supplies, or you're selling bridges or something crazy like that, physics is going to look great on your CV or your resume. What else do we have? Diane says, or asks, is the perception that the general public have about sales people fair or unfair? I'm trying to think this one through, right? I would say it's actually fair. Most salespeople suck, right? Now, this is going to change. The perception of this is going to change over the next 5 to maybe 10 years, but 5 years for sure, because a lot of salespeople that ruin that word sales, the pushy, manipulative salesperson, they're dead. They will not exist in 5 years. If you look at, try and buy a Tesla, right? In Leeds, the Tesla dealership is within a shopping centre, a really posh shopping centre in the middle of town. I don't think they actually have salespeople. I think they have like customer service people instead. Maybe slightly wrong on that, but from my experience of chatting with them, you go in, there's an iPad, you choose the car, you spec it out, someone answers your questions, and then you're done. You put a deposit down, right? No weird, pushy nonsense. In fact, I remember reading recently, I think Tesla's actual car salespeople, wherever they exist, they don't exist in Leeds, I don't think. I think they get a commission based on the performance of the dealership or the shop, however we're framing it up, as opposed to individual commissions. So that takes away some of this neediness from salespeople and the sliminess as well. But yeah, I think right now, it's very fair. There are a lot of crappy salespeople in our space, unfortunately. I think in 5 years, a lot of them are going to be out of jobs or going to have to change to the moving dynamic, the buyer, the buying journey. If we go back to the whiteboard, Truth and Justice, that might run out of battery any second. It's just an iPad on the screen, right? So it used to be that this is the buying journey going this direction. It used to be that the salesperson was involved at this point, right? So maybe there'd be this much marketing, and then you'd ring up the salesperson. You'd want to speak with someone who knows what they're talking about, and then they could push you all of this way from A to B and get the deal closed. Now, sales is happening at this point, right? So there's this much marketing, there's this much research that the buyer is doing on their own time with their own energy. And so by the time a buyer speaks to a salesperson, in most spaces, in most industries, they've already made half a decision. If you're sleazy, if you're slimy with them, that's it. The decision's made. They're going to go with a competitor. So before they had to speak with you to get information, now they don't have to speak with you because there's all this space that marketing provides information within. Content marketing, whatever it is, video. Video is clearly going to be the future of all this. VR is going to be the future of all this. And so they're only speaking to you at this point in time. And so if you're sleazy, you're gone, they're going to go with a competitor. Whereas at this point, you could be sleazy because the buyer needed information. At this point, the buyer needed information from you. So yeah, I think to answer your question, I'm doing a lot of long-winded question answering today. I know exactly what it is. It's because I've been stuck in with the dog all day, talking with a dog and not speaking with an actual human. And so I think I've just got words to regurgitate out onto all of you guys, which is not good selling practice and not good content practice. But here we are. So yeah, in 5 years, sales is going to be a different. It's good. The word sales in 5 years will mean a different thing to most people than what it does right now. Okay. What do we have now? I'm going to have another sip. Adon says, keep up the good work. I appreciate you, mate. Okay, question from Adon as well. For B2B sales, should sales pros be marketing as well as selling, or should that be another department? If so, what is the percentage breakdown? So there should definitely be a split between marketing and sales. But salespeople need to market themselves. They need to be known as product experts or product specialists, as opposed to, as I was just alluding to there, sleazy salespeople. So salespeople should be marketing themselves. They should be investing in their own career, whether that be doing courses, maybe going to conferences, but certainly doing different trainings and getting different qualifications where appropriate. And then that adds to your own marketing. They should be creating insights, sharing insights, and marketing should be feeding into this. Now, this might end up being its own bubble that'll last 20 years and then something else will change in the future. But we've got at least 10 to 20 years of the salespeople who are the best known in their space will be able to close far easier than anyone else. Marketing will always have to drive awareness and generate leads, and salespeople then, it's a different dynamic. This is what I'm saying with sales changing over the next 5 to 10 years. You'll then pick up a phone to a salesperson that might not even be called a salesperson at this point. It might be a product specialist, and they have so much influence on that call because the buyer is seeing them as an authority that deals just happen. It becomes a nice place to be, a nice place to sell within. And that's where you want to be moving forward. So yes, there should be a split between sales and marketing because they're doing different jobs. Marketing are driving awareness, driving marketing qualified leads, perhaps, if not just in a branding perspective. And if salespeople are doing outreach, if you're doing outreach as someone who's branded and marketed yourself as an expert, as a product specialist, then everything else gets 10 times easier. You're going to actually be able to get through on cold calls or essentially make them warm calls before the conversation even starts. So there we go. And none of this is new stuff. We talk about this every week on the show. None of this is rocket science. Who do you want to have a sales conversation with? Someone who gets 100%, who's paid 100% commission and needs to feed their family and wants to buy a Range Rover? Or are you more likely to have a decent conversation with someone who is known as an expert in their field? There's social proof on the internet to support that fact. And they genuinely care and love about the product and care about the outcomes of the product for you, the customer. Clearly, you're going to want to speak to that person. So that is going to be a differentiator in the marketplace. And eventually, everyone will have to move it that way because we're just not going to pick up phone calls to sleazy salespeople anymore. Ken, my man, I hope you are well, mate. I hope everything yesterday went well. He asks, black tea, Earl Grey, and how do you take it? So I only drink green tea. I hate dark tea. I know green tea tastes a little bit like dirt, but black tea literally tastes like soil water. But I've just got a new coffee machine though, so I've been having loads of lattes. I'm actually getting slightly fat from all the milk. So milk doesn't agree with me at all. So this is a green tea with one tea bag, and I will typically use the tea bag multiple times until it just tastes like slightly muddy water. There you go. Because I'm trying to not drink too much caffeine. That was the point of that spiel. And there's less caffeine in green tea than there is in black tea. Okay, what else do we have? How long have we been going? I have no idea because I did not set a timer. So we'll go for another quarter of an hour or so, and then we'll wrap things up. Okay, Barbara asks, who would you rather be? I think that would be better said. What would you rather be? Famous or the world's best salesperson? This is dead easy, dead simple. I don't want to be famous. Being famous and poor would suck versus being rich, which being the world's best salesperson, it would enable you to become rich and anonymous. Now, it's nice having an audience. I've got to admit, every now and again, especially when we used to go to sales conferences, when we were doing the live salesman podcast we did in Chicago, we were down in Paris, we did it in London, San Francisco. It was actually really cool to be able to walk into a room. Now, I'll preface this. Outside of the conference room, no one knew who I was. I've been recognized twice in the 6 years. I recognized once at a gig. I think it was at a train station. Just a fan of the podcast came over and said hello. Two different people, two separate occasions. But it is quite cool to be able to walk into a conference room and have a good chunk of people in there recognize you, come and say hello, buy you drinks, all that good stuff. That is quite cool. But in the grand scheme of things, I'd much rather be anonymous than famous. Being famous is a burden, right? And I'm assuming this, right? Clearly, I have no fame to speak of outside of a sales conference, or if we put on our own events in the future, people would know me there. But so I'll change that. being famous must be a burden. I can only assume it'd be a burden. So yeah, I'd rather be the world's greatest salesperson, earn a ton of money, do whatever I want, and not have to not worry about getting mugged, paparazzi'd, kidnapped, or anything like that. Cool. There's good questions this week, guys. Feel free to throw less salesy and more random questions in here. That makes things more interesting for me. Mary Ellen asks, SaaS is hot for salespeople right now, but what do you think is the next hot sales space? A great question. I would say, I could actually do a podcast episode on this. This might actually be a good podcast episode to look at, or a YouTube video. I might do that actually. So there we go. I'll answer this more thoroughly in a YouTube video in the next couple of weeks or so. Anything where there's a job where, this is what SaaS does, right? SaaS, a software as a service product, wipes out a bunch of jobs that would have had to be done, a bunch of roles, a bunch of hires, a bunch of employees that would be managing software on site. Now it can be done remotely, virtually, online, and it's much cheaper, quicker, and easier to set up, install, and get running. So it makes an executive, for example, if you're selling to them, it makes a much easier and better value proposition to them than it does, hey, well, we can do it at a similar price, but we've got to install this software box on your premises. Then we've got to come around and look at the site, and then maybe we need someone on site every few weeks to manage it. SaaS just wiped all of that out. So if you can essentially make people redundant with a product, then it's going to kill it in the marketplace. Now, what does that mean for sales jobs in now and moving forward? Well, we're looking at automation of all kinds. Automation of robots, software automation. So I'm seeing a lot of people, I'm getting a lot of pitches at the moment because we have developers in our team for, how do they frame it? Codeless software development. So you can now use app services and essentially a layer between the programmer and the underlying code. You can use a visual layer to create software programs without having to put down the time, the expense, the effort, and even the bug testing and all the nonsense that goes along with writing code itself. So if you can automate that process, incredible. Healthcare. So again, my background, medical device sales. Just as I was leaving the space, the Da Vinci robot. If you want to watch something cool, Google that after this live stream, right? Just search for Da Vinci robot. Not necessarily automated, but it's augmenting the surgical, the surgeon's abilities. Whether that be they can do large, slow, controlled hand movements, and then everything's narrowed down and focused and scaled down to a tiny little robot hands doing stitching within inside a patient if they're doing a laparoscopic procedure. So rather than making big incisions, using small incisions and then doing the procedure within the patient itself. Things like that are just one crazy cool. I would love to sell a product like that. It wouldn't necessarily be a laugh, but it'd be fascinating. It'd be interesting. So jobs like that, and then any other healthcare automation, whether that be. So my brother's a pharmacist, and I remember him telling me a few years ago that it's not too far from the market. It might be on the market now in specialist places, but rather than you go to a pharmacy and you get 25 different drugs, maybe you're a cancer patient, whatever it is, you've got all kinds of different drugs for different things to interact with one thing, and then this makes you down, so you have antidepressants on top of it, and then this is causing inflammation, so you have an anti-inflammatory. Before my mum passed away with cancer, she had all kinds of pounds, like literally bags of medication that she needed to take. So rather than all of that, the future of pharmacy is a machine where it's got all the drugs within it, and it just prints out a customized tablet just for you. So most of the size of a tablet is just filler, so you don't drop it and lose it, and so it's manageable. Most of that tablet can just be replaced with other drugs. So maybe rather than taking 30 tablets a day, you could take 3. So automation down that front in healthcare, that's what I'd be looking at. That's what I'd be encouraging you to move towards. So what's that? Automation in robotics, automation in software, automation in healthcare, anything where your product can make a ton of people redundant, as unfortunate as that sounds. That's probably the next batch of hot places, hot companies that you want to work within. And this could be the startup world. It could be within the larger enterprise world as well. Clearly, everyone's working on this because we've got technology to do it now. Okay. Answer one more question. So there's quite a few on here. I'm going to pick one that I actually want to answer. Usually I just go through them in the order that they crop up in. Okay. Draw la 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 la. Alex Ander. Again, I'm butchering your name. I don't know. Maybe I've just been in Europe. Maybe I think because we're in the time zone that we're in, we get Europe, we get the US, we get Africa, Asia as well. I think just the time zone we're in, I get all kinds of different names in different places. I appreciate you all listening. There's so many names I can't pronounce. Alex Ander asks, if a client gave you 1 minute on the first call, how would you spend it? So don't overcomplicate this. If I've got 1 minute on the first call, all I'm doing is getting that diary open, the buyer's diary open to book in another call. I'm not pitching them. I'd pitch them as much as I need to get the next call. I'm not trying to influence them. I'm not trying to do a one call close or any nonsense like that, especially not for the products that we sell. They're too expensive, right? All I'm trying to do is social proof that what I provide is useful to the marketplace. I want to give some kind of insight, if possible, to drive this law of influence of reciprocity. Reciprocity? I give you something, you're going to be more likely to give me something back. And then I'm just getting the diary open. That's it. Don't overcomplicate it. That first call, whether you're cold calling, whatever it is, you might be doing some information gathering. You might be saying, hey, is this the right person for this? And then you can carry on the conversation from there. Are you the person who deals with this? Who can you introduce me to this person? Can you put me through? Common things happening within the first minute of a cold call. But other than that, all I'm trying to do is just get that meeting booked in by any means necessary. I'll do anything to get that meeting booked in, as long as it doesn't diminish my authority, my level of expertise on that call, because that's clearly going to ruin the next one. So there we go. Hopefully that was useful. I'm going to wrap things up there. I appreciate you guys. I will speak with you again on Selling Made Simple live chat next week. We've got some cool stuff coming over the next few months. I mentioned it at the top of the live stream itself. If you are interested in learning how to use frameworks, how to go from A to B to C, step-by-step processes to make selling simple for yourself, then head over to salesman.org/webinar and jump on the webinar. It's on the 26th. I'm not sure what time it is internationally, but I think it's 6 p.m. UK time. We're going to be jumping on there. I'll do some Q&A. I'll do some training on the frameworks that we offer in our brand new product that's coming out probably about 6 weeks from now as I record this. We'll do some training. I'll give you loads of cool free stuff. I'll do my best to answer all of your questions in a Q&A, and then there might be some discounts and offers for anyone who wants to sign up to the product pre-launch at the end of it. So if you're interested, if you wanted to work with us, if you wanted to see our products in action, if you wanted to spend a bit more time with me behind the scenes, I guess, I can be, when it's not live streamed across LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, and everywhere else that we live stream, I can be a little bit more candid with some of my answers than what needs to be slightly more politically correct when things are going out more publicly. So yeah, we can get into all of that on the webinar. So you can get that over at salesman.org/webinar. And with that, I'll speak with you again on next week's episode of Selling Made Simple Live. I get that wrong every week. I don't think I've done a good outro yet, so we'll leave it with that.